All right, I think we can get started. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, thank you. I'm having issues with my computer. I don't know. So I'm on my phone. I'm rebooting my computer, so I um don't have my stuff in front of me. Anyway, we're today we're going to talk about the recommendations. You should have received them yesterday. And Uh, I think that we can get this done today in the meeting time that we've allotted, provided that we all stay on task. I think to move the process along, what we're going to do is first talk about the new recommendations. And then if we have time and we want to, or we feel a need to discuss something from last year, that's okay. Just the repeats, we all talked about them last year. We have our comments, everyone's comments in the final report. So I don't really see a need to spend a lot of time on them. So, and if anyone needs a link to the report last year, I can send that. Um, but I think that's it. John, do you have anything?
Yeah, before I go to my comments, Sheldon raised his hand. So go ahead,
Oh,
Sheldon.
thank you.
Yep, of
Yeah,
course.
I just want to be fair in terms of what Maureen said. The old recommendations coming from the advocates, it's noted where they've been revised somewhat. So there's some that say, it's literally every word is just taken from last year,
Mhm.
the report. But I just wanted to be clear that there are some revisions, and they're the ones that are revised are noted. So
Right.
just
So yeah,
yeah.
so what I plan to do for your recommendations is to go through the new ones first, go through the revised ones, and then if anyone has comments or questions on the old, you know, unrevised recommendations, then we'll do that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Um, is it okay if we start with Diane?
Yeah, Maureen, if I could just step in real quick.
Yeah. Oh yeah, sorry.
No worries. So what we'll do after we have our discussion is I will then put out the Google form like we did last year with all of the recommendations. Finalize it with Maureen, and then we'll send it to everybody out. And then, if we get it out early next week, hopefully we can give everybody, a solid couple of weeks to provide their comments. And then all of that will be compiled, and all of that information will be put into the annual report, similar to what we did last year. So thanks, Maureen.
Yep. And can we put the recommendations on the screen again? I'm trying to restart my computer and I don't have them in
Sure, I
front
can
of
do
me.
that.
Thanks.
Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mm,
And I
thank you.
and I think it's just going to be very quick and to the point. There's only a few things that were carried over from last year that were on the advocates report too. The only thing I'm asking for is the last point I put on there is the monthly meetings, maybe sunsetting some of that and maybe trying to streamline it a little bit. It's been a challenge to accommodate every month some of these meetings. A lot of it's been reiterated, and some of the times I just like to see maybe next year's be a little bit more streamlined or sunset it and revamp how we go about doing this. And if there's concerns, the purpose of the chairs is to reach out to us in the industry or anybody else to go through that. So I think the first 4 points I have on here were in the advocates too. I know my gut instincts telling me this is not going to get through anyways, because most of this stuff has a fiscal note that's going to be tied to it. And we all know the challenges that the state's going through for next year, but I don't think there's anything that's a little different than last year's. I mean, it's literally cutting and pasting from last year's. It's coming back, pulling through what we had from before. So, and I saw that too on the advocate. So I don't think I have anything that doesn't jive up. Just my questions are going to be really around the new ones I just saw last night from the advocate group. So I'd rather turn the time over to go over the other ones notes if that's acceptable to the group.
I just want to point out, I'm sorry to jump in here. But I was just looking over this, and I know this was something that we discussed a lot last year, but the thought of it actually ever being covered is slim to none. The annual preventive maintenance on consumer-owned backup equipment. It's a great idea. Like you said, with the way that the state is, I highly doubt that one will make it. What's your thought on that?
But I still think it's important to share it because even down the road, whether or not we know, I'm just trying to be realistic, right? Just because everything I'm seeing, and I'm sure the state agencies that are on this call will attest to the same thing. But I don't want to give up not putting those things down because I think it's important that we're still trying to do policy change. These are the same things I'm talking to CMS on too from a policy level. So, but I'm just stating for the fact for the group as a whole, knowing what I'm seeing happening across the nation right now. And this was there last year.
Okay. And sorry to jump in on you, Sheldon. I know you had your hand raised.
That's okay. You're exempt from raising your hand. Anyway, I just wanted to point out that when we came up with our recommendations that were based on last year, we decided to pare down. I mean, just because, well, in all honesty, we got exactly nothing last year. We did pare down, and the things I'm just going to point out 2, 3, and 4 of your list, Diane. The only thing that we're proposing for this year in that group that was last year is the preventive maintenance for the current chair, not for the backup. You know, even though, of course, I agree with what Joe just said, that would be great, and we agree with you, that would be great. The other, preventive maintenance of the backup equipment, like if we can get preventive maintenance of the current equipment, that's, that'd be great. So we have that, and in fact, just in full disclosure, again, in terms of revisions, we're proposing ours is actually twice a year. We're proposing for the preventive maintenance for the current chair. On the first one, I had a question, which is, we agree 100% on that, but I think we've done everything we can do. I apologize, there's noise here. I've got a contractor in my house. I can't do anything about that. We've regulated Medicaid and individual full risk plans and group full risk plans. And I thought that's all we can regulate as a matter of, state law. We can't regulate Medicare, of course. We can't regulate the self-funded plans. The only thing that's a little ambiguous in there is the state employees plan, which we could regulate, except that it's subject to bargaining. We can't just do it. It has to be the unions would have to agree with. So I just wasn't sure what you meant when you say all insurance plans, what exactly you were talking about.
Yeah, the board. And also too, these are things too that we can always kind of put proposals in that they're trying to do for repairs on that in other states. Yes, you're talking about private insurance. You don't have jurisdiction over private insurance, commercial, of course not. But again, these are things that we can go in. The concern I have though, Sheldon and group is, yeah, you're paring it down to annual preventive maintenance. That's adding more time on top of that. That's great. We still need some fiscal note tied to that. And it needs to be addressed and just realistic on that. Twice a year, I don't think that's going to be realistic. I think once a year, because most of your manufacturer guidelines on there, it says once a year. Q6 months is only, I think it's Sunrise has it on there. Every 6 months, do a maintenance check. But I gotta double check that because I do mix up my manufacturers between ours. But yeah, and so these are just, like I said, I'll line and go over the notes that you guys have. I'd rather just turn over the time for that because I know that's where going to be more of a back and forth on.
And one last one, which will then segue into that conversation, is your last one. The advocates feel strongly that it's important to keep the monthly meetings and the monthly reporting. And to be honest with you, it is the only plausible, what we have right now, enforcement. I mean, it's not even enforcement, it's just accountability. It's all we have. So we have proposals when we talk about our recommendations, And if those recommendations were to be adopted, then yeah, I think the advocates, I can't really speak for it, but I think we'd be open to, addressing the frequency of the meetings if we had other forms of accountability that we just don't have right now. Thanks.
Okay,
And my request then, I would like to amend this then. We need more than one industry voice. I'm the only voting chair in this committee, which I brought up before this about this. I'm 1 against 9. I hate to say it that way, but that's really how this comes out from this committee. Now I get it that this was set up for the, for the consumer and have a voice of the consumers. But at the end of the day, Sheldon and group, whatever I come up with as a recommendation is always going to be outweighed from the advocacy side because we do not have equity of voice on this. So if that's the case, I would like to make an amendment on this. If it can't be that, then you need to have more industry voices as a voting members of this council. And that's one of my asks I might amend on this and take back.
I don't think it's too late for you to do amendments. I mean, I can't not speak for
definitely not.
anybody else, but it seems reasonable that you should be able to amend your proposals. I did
That's
want
why
to
we're
point
here
out,
today.
yeah, I did want to point out that, that it's true that the advocates have a majority, but this is only an advisory committee. It's not like a real committee that has any power. It's exactly zero power. So that, sort of does balance it. But I understand your point, and we can talk about that as we go into it, as we go into our suggestions.
Diane, I see your hand, Daryl. I'm just not clear on your response to um the first about the removing prior auth and prescriptions.
No, we're taking that off. It doesn't matter
Okay,
to the point that
okay,
Sheldon
I'm
brought
sorry.
up because your state doesn't have it. They don't have the authority. You're not managed Medicaid like they do in other states. It's just Husky. So
Okay,
again, like I said, I knew most of my stuff on here is not going to go far, but
at
Daryl.
least we make note of it. Yep. Daryl.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, one of the things that I think is important is, in the industry, coming from the industry, it's really important that you guys advocate for your businesses and your business. It's a business, and that was one of the things that got me into kind of as a clinician as well as a wheelchair user to get that ATP certification because I just saw it as a user. There was a disconnect between the DME suppliers, between your mat evaluations and all that, and then the way you were getting fitted for your chairs, but also the reason why we're all here for the timely manner. So, is there anybody in the industry that is a wheelchair user, or just for a different
Oh yeah,
perspective?
we have a lot of
Yeah,
our. I have 2 ATPs that are. I also have staff that are. No, we are very very big advocate of hiring our
nice.
within. So no, we absolutely do.
I think that's a good way to consider too as well. Just because like, and maybe if they're already in the system, it's a little easier for them to get the repair, and the process might be a little different than if they were just a simple clientele and not into the profession. But I do want to just emphasize that it's a little disconnect that way, and that's why we're advocating here. So we appreciate all your support, Diane.
Okay, thank you, Farah.
Thank you. Building off what both Diane and Daryl said, I think it might not be the worst idea to consider the idea of term limits for the people on this council. I mean, that would keep any one person from being strapped with having to, whether it's representing the industry or the insurance or an advocate, from being the person having to show up every month, just indefinitely, but also for the advocates. I mean, we're all bringing our lived experience to the table, but we're also each only one person, and the community is vast. I think that might not be the worst thing to consider when we're talking about equity.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I moved over to my computer. Can everyone hear me? Okay, good. It's a lot easier on here. Okay. Do we have anything else? Okay, we can always, we can always refer back to any of these recommendations because as Diane said, there is overlap with the recommendations. So let's move over to the consumer advocates. And if we could have that up on the screen, that would be great. And I don't know who's taking the lead here.
I'll do it if it's okay.
Okay.
Well,
I'm starting with, I forget how you have this laid out, but starting with the new ones.
so number 9. Right. So, this is sort of tied to partly what Diane said in her recommendation. Half of it is, is this council going to exist forever? Right. It's a question. And right now the law is it just exists. And, questions have been raised, and we know there was a bill that would have gotten rid of us by now. We wouldn't exist, which would have been terrible. But at some point, maybe hopefully, I mean, the goal is that it's going to become routinized that there's full compliance or close to full compliance, and, and it continues, and that we have to exist. So the recommendation here is to consider that in each report. Like, okay, here's what we did so far this year, and okay, let's look at the sunsetting. Or if we're not going to and it suggests, it should be a date at least 6 months later if it's going to be sunsetted. And then if it's not going to be sunsetted, but to Diane's point, should we look at less frequent meetings? Should that, that could be, so for example, the report is it due at the end of the year?
Yes, end of
Our
December.
report now coming up?
Yep.
Yeah,
Right,
end
so
of
that
December.
report could address both of these points. Right, so I mean, not only would it be a recommendation for future reports, but we could actually do it in the report now and say, this is our recommendation on sunsetting, or this is our recommendation on frequency of the meetings. So in any event, it'd be a requirement that in future annual reports, for as long as we exist, we'd be required to address both of those. That's what this is meant to do.
Any comments, questions? All right. I think we're free to move on.
Can I chime in on 9 real quick?
Of course.
And I do think, like, you talk about frequency of meetings and everything too as well, like how often. I know, like, everybody's have a really busy schedule and people are double dipping in a lot of different things. But I think that frequency based on the data, if there's more compliance, and it seems to be regulated and more on that 90% scale, then the frequency could probably be stretched out a little bit. I'm not sure if anybody has feedback on that or.
And that was kind of to my point when I was saying in the reports too, if our compliance is there and it's going in that direction and there's minimal concerns voiced, then, there's no need to meet. But I already know that I get reached out directly from council members on stuff that come up. If there's any concerns, nobody's shy. They're reaching out to us. I know, Maureen, you're reaching out to Gary. He shared with me the feedback. Some of the members on the board the council has reached out directly to us, to providers of the ones that are servicing on this council right now. So it's not like people are sitting on back and letting it just ride until the meeting. And if the intent is we still are sending the reports in every month on compliance where we're at, I don't know. We're doing it monthly already without legislative. We're sending over, we'll continue to do so. So I think that's just some things to consider. If we were to dip, say, let something drop below 80%, what's going on, without notification, I would think, I know myself, if we had lost 2 or 3 texts at once or something like that, God forbid, I would notify the council, hey, heads up, here's what we're at, and here's the problem that we're dealing with. Here's how we're addressing it, but this may happen. Something of that nature. It's just accountability to the council back on this, but I think that's some things to be considered.
You, go ahead, Joe.
I just wanted to say to Diane, you've gone leaps and bounds, and NSM has gone leaps and bounds, and your percentage is like right in the money there. And if it was up to me, I would, go less frequent meetings. But unfortunately, it's not the same for New Motion. Their data seems skewed every month. There's problems every month. There's always excuses, and they haven't taken the steps. So unfortunately, you're getting kind of thrown under the bus because of the lack of work they've done to get in compliance of this. So you're just kind of getting dragged along for the ride, hoping that they eventually get the message that we're not going away. And so yeah, I do apologize that NSM has gone leaps and bounds. You really have in the last couple of years. But yeah, that the monthly meetings are still needed for demotion just to hold them to accountability because I still can't trust them. And if we're getting lied to on a council, I can imagine what, they're continuing to do to consumers. So, all right, that's my 2 cents.
Thanks, Joe. Sheldon.
Yeah, one of the things that raised my hand to is to basically say what Joe said. I mean, Diana, you've been very upfront with your data, and last month it did drop to 86%, which is, as you acknowledged, not up to par even by your standards. So there's still work to be done, but we feel if there's monthly reporting, I think we feel, as Joe just said, that your data is accurate, and we've set. I mean, the new motion data is, well, there's going to be a recommendation you'll see on that. It doesn't make sense. We've asked 3 times for an explanation, and there is no way it adds up. So that's the problem we're in, and that's why we feel the need for the monthly games.
And I would suggest maybe think about shortening the meetings, except we run against the clock every single month. So I don't even think that we would have to talk about that to see if that's an option, but I don't know. Um we, change the format of the meetings or whatever, but it's a consideration.
And also, Diane, you had mentioned somebody else from the industry, and we know that a lot of these meetings, Gary's only able to be here for a short period of time, or not at all. So if you did have another voice from the industry that could actually, provide explanations about the data from New Motion, that might be a choice as well.
Okay, Sheldon, I think we can move on to number 10.
So this is addressing the thing that we're getting a lot of pushback, not pushback isn't the word, but complaints of consumers saying they're really frustrated that they try to go to the other company and the company won't touch it. Now, Gary said that that's not their policy. For what it's worth, he said that's not their policy. But Diane, you said it is, and you explained the real, well, you explained a couple of things, but the main concern was scooters and other people buying these things online and they won't service them. So what we were trying to do in this one is sort of thread the needle to make it so you can go to to the different shops, but only if you bought it through a dealer in Connecticut. So it's the fact that somebody got something online, you don't have to service it under this scenario. And you only have to service it if you actually provide it yourself. I mean, it's a kind of device that you sell, right? And you obviously have to be insured payment one way or another. And so this was an attempt to address the concerns we're hearing from consumers while we hope addressing your concerns about not wanting to service the fly-by-nights and the people who are out of state and people
I
who are
don't want to have happen, Sheldon, is that, get dumped on and then it's going to become a capacity issue and then it's going to go back to the same thing, like we're seeing this across the board, like a lot of things. It's not just wheelchairs, right? I mean, we're starting to see stuff in the industry there. People will sell the stuff, but then they're coming to us to help fix it, right? And financially, we can't keep doing that. And, and the comments that have been made early on in this committee, like, well, you get paid a lot of money for the equipment, new equipment. It's not the case, true. I mean, the amount of work that gets done on repairs is very cost prohibitive. So when we're looking at these things, I want the committee, I mean, I'm honest to a fault sometimes with this committee, but I deal with this day in and day out with all the insurance plans across the nation, right? And what's coming up and what's coming down. My concern is, Sheldon, yeah, we're doing a really good job with our clients right now, and we're killing ourselves trying to keep this and meet all these goals and that. And I'm starting to get more and more people because of that starting to come to us, which is a compliment. I want to say, yay, good for us. Good that the team's working so hard there in Connecticut to make this happen. But then there becomes a point where there's a capacity issue where we become a repair shop for everybody else. And that's my concern. It's not like we don't want to take care of who we serve. We need to take care of who we serve and do it to the level that needs to be done, right? To the points that brought out by this committee. My concern is that some things are going to get forced. Like you're going to say, nope, you're going to have to do this because you're a provider in the state and blah, blah, blah. You're going to take us on. And if you don't, we're going to punish you for it. I don't want to get to that point. And that's my concern. And so it's a fine line, right? So if someone switches insurance plans, we all know those things happen. You got to have someone that's in network. Sometimes a plan won't cover something and someone loses it. I have that concern like that in a sister state in Massachusetts. Like there's a health plan we don't have a contract with and we can't. And we talked about this before. Like, can I do a single case agreement? Keep the person in with us if we've had the history, we know them. We get that. The problem we're running into is we're seeing more and more people leave this industry. I just had this past week, to give you an example, 4 different DME companies that can no longer handle or don't want to handle CRT business. So they're splitting off and looking to sell, but keeping their other core business that's lower maintenance, lower, I don't know what you call it, less hand holding businesses. We're starting to see that left and right coming out of the woodwork. And with the changes that are coming with the government right now and some of the things that are coming up for competitive bid, we're starting to see this more and more. And so I just want this committee to be aware of this stuff, that this is the concern I have, because there's a point, there's a capacity issue to do the job well, right? To the point that we're experiencing why we got this committee to begin with. So I just want to be careful when you guys are suggesting some of this type of language, when you're becoming very prescriptive, telling the business what they are and are not going to accept or do, you're going to have people going to peel back and not come into this industry. I've said it since day one. We need more providers in the marketplace. You're down to 2 or 3. Some people are going to say because it's PE, greedy people gobbling up. But I'll tell you right now, Sheldon and Group, all of the people that have come to us in this past 5 years, 8 years that I've been here, have not been us seeking to go buy people. It's been people dumping their business because they're no longer able to do it. And that's a concern. And we're both, I know I had this conversation the other week with NCART saying the industry is shrinking too much and there's a problem and there's a core problem around that. And that's some of the conversations I'm having on the Hill, some of the conversations I'm having with CMS on policy. You're getting to the point where it's a capacity issue. And I just get concerned when we start seeing stuff like this, because Sheldon, I want more people coming into this industry. I really do. I don't want it to be new motion in us. And when you get to the point when you got two dogs in this fight, and that's all that's left, that's not good. It's not good.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, David has hands up. I did want to just clarify the question though. If the language we have is just that, or the first part is that you have to service something you yourself provided.
Well, yeah, if we provide it, you service it.
Yeah, not an
Absolutely.
issue. But it would only, basically, you would only be under this language, you would only be required to service wheelchairs that are provided by either New Motion or Agawam, and only if you yourself market that very product, and only if there's insurance payment for it, so that you know.
But that makes no difference, Sheldon. You're basically still stating to me, because I have a contract and I'm doing those product lines and I do have my credentialing set up with the insurance plan or whatever to do those products, or not all. Keep in mind, not everybody's contracts are the same as providers. Some are carve outs, some are full bore, whatever it may be. You're still telling me if the Agawam or a New Motion client wants to come to me for stuff, I got to take them. That's what you're saying in this statement. Correct me if I'm wrong.
If you deal in the very kind of
Take that away. You know what we're talking about here.
And there's payment. Yeah. Yeah, no, yes, I want to be clear that is what we're talking. And the reason, I just so you know, understand the reason is because that's what consumers are saying. And I think, to be honest, it probably is true. They know NSM service is better than New Motion. I can't speak about Agawam, but and that you guys do a better job, and you do a better job, and they're beating a path to your door. I think that's why people are asking for that.
Yeah. And we do take them. Like, keep in mind, Sheldon, we do have people that we try to fish it out and figure what it is and where it goes to. What I hate and what I've seen happen, and this is where it's a disparity in our industry. Everyone's great about doing new equipment. Oh, I'll do your new equipment if you want to come to me for a new piece of equipment. How far along are you in your repair process? I hear that a lot from competitors. Like, oh, you're in the 4th year of yeah, I'll take it out because I know next year I'm going to get a new chair out of you. What I'm starting to see and what I've been seeing in mine, because I've been knee deep in this, is they just literally got their chair last year and now they're coming to us for repairs, which tells me the competitors are dumping. We had this problem in another sister state. We brought one of the providers up that's doing this right now. And they're doing that, and it's not New Motion that necessarily was doing it. It's another competitor that's doing that. They're selling them, but they're not servicing.
I want David to speak, but I did want to make a suggestion, is to bring it back and think about, is there a way where if this were more limited, you'd be willing to agree to it? If there was
We do, but keep in mind, Sheldon, we do that. Keep in mind, I do take people. I've had people switch from New Motion and came over to us. We are servicing them right now. It's just we're looking at it and asking those questions, especially going into 4th quarter. You're going to hear more pushback on it because we're getting inundated with orders trying to get out for the year end. But there is some things, but I'm just telling you, we will push hard if something becomes this prescriptive, and it's just going to make it harder for other people to come into the industry. And I already know, like, Agawam is scaling back because of the bills that are in state now already. I've heard it enough anecdotally, and in Massachusetts, I'm hearing things that are going on with the programs that Massachusetts is doing. And I'll just leave it at that. Again, this is why I want industry people on here. I want someone from Agawam on here. I want New Motion people on here. I want the other locations on here to speak for themselves. But I try to, reach out everyone I can and get NCART involved for those who have not been responsive.
Well, thanks for thinking about this, in ways that might be agreeable.
David.
Hi. So this is probably a totally separate sort of topic to get into maybe more later, but you talked about capacity and funding issues and costs. What's being done, or what can you get into now about reimbursement rates and how that affects, these kind of decisions taken on new people? And, is there some sort of formula, like a COLA sort of thing, where reimbursement rates go up every year based on inflation? And can you give us some information about that?
That's part of the problem, Dave, and this is what we keep discussing. And I'm going to say this. Connecticut Medicaid has not had a rate increase in over, geez, how many years has it been? And then there's been restrictions and there's been reductions. And I anticipate, we all know, we've all spoke, for those of I know Sheldon's even spoke about it, the disparity of stuff. I am not seeing any relief. And now you have competitive bid coming up again. And there might be some buckets of things that are coming up from Medicare now. That's going to be announced next week. Some things are on there that might affect us, not so much as core business. But keep in mind, we have been operating as an industry on reimbursement rates that are over 7 to 8 years old. Our costs go up, labor goes up, everything has gone up, but not our reimbursement. And let me be very clear. You can look online and see what we get reimbursed. Let's say Medicare and Medicaid is the highest payers in the land out there. Your commercial plans, all of us providers, our commercial plans are never 100% of Medicaid or Medicare rates. So you can go and look and see what we, the max we're going to get reimbursed on a new piece of equipment, the max we're going to get reimbursed on a repair part and labor. It's all posted. You can do the math. Most of your national contracts and most of your commercial plans are percentage less. So think about that. And so these things are what we've been dealing with for year after year after year. And that's also why you're seeing people exit this market. And it's not going to get better from everything I'm seeing coming down the pipeline. I see nothing but budget shortfalls in every single state.
Diane, just to follow up with what David asked though. So with DSS, which we can't control Medicare, there is no COLA. There's not like, last year was that there's inflation and deflation. You're saying there's no COLAs in there?
No. My fee schedule for Husky has been the same for the past 8 years. Jeannie can answer. She's on the line, I believe, from from Husky. And that's the thing that people keep, you get your CPIs from Medicare. Most of our states and most of our contracts don't do it in par. So a lot of our commercial plans, your contracts are 3 to 5 year length. They're based on a percentage of, percentage below, percentage of. And then you don't. And this is the thing that's the disconnect that's out there in this world. All right. I mean, I can't give you exact details for every single person's contract, but in general. And then that's the problem. And that's what we're dealing with. And so you're assuming we're getting all these pass-throughs, or you're assuming we have not. We have not. Now, next year, come 2027, all the Medicaids per CMS guidelines are required to post the last time they had rate improvements or rate changes. It will be required. So you're going to see, but we have not had anything.
Yeah,
since
I think this is probably
2019.
I think this is probably something that could even be a whole bigger discussion and maybe get legislators involved, because I mean,
Well, they
I mean, I
know,
have,
David, trust me,
they know.
we speak on a regular. But the states, and like everything else, now with the changes that are coming up in 2 or 3 years or 4 or 5 years with the shortfall, budget shortfalls, but that is something that's always been a struggle. And I think that's the disconnect I think we've been talking about, right? So, and then this is why you're starting to see these capacity issues. You're starting to see some things trying to work up. And I've shared our costs. I've shared our reimbursement with legislators. I've shared with CMS how the business operates. And it's a challenge. You still got to make some money to be able to do and expand and grow, right? It is not everything's, even if you're a non-for-profit, you still got to have some revenues to get in to expand and do more business or expand and go out.
Yeah, I don't know enough
This is
about,
not
I
the
don't know
purpose of
about it. Yeah.
this group though, but this is the struggles. I want to be very transparent, and I'm more than glad if you want to see how numbers work. Like I said, you don't even need me to show you. You can go and do it.
Seems like something could be done. I don't know what we can do, but it seems like it needs to be a bigger discussion. Something needs to change to make sure that the people that actually need our chairs fixed, like you guys have the money to do it. I don't know what we can do, but it seems like there needs to be a bigger discussion about this. You're gonna go back to the recommendations?
Well, no, I'm thinking, but thank you, David. I'm just thinking, do we want, I don't know if we want a recommendation about this. Do we want to plan to include this in our report?
As far as what, reimbursement rates?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what people think about it. I think there needs to be some realistic, thoughts about this. It's, if you haven't had a reimbursement rate increase in, I think you said 8 years, Diane, it's a long time, and let's be realistic. If you don't, I mean, everything goes up in price. I mean, it's, we don't control it, but I think it's something that needs to be considered, possibly, yeah.
This is not the only recommendation that would cost money for the state. Obviously, the preventive maintenance would, whether it's 6 months or annual. So we're already suggesting something that costs money. And this would cost money, but both David and Diane do make very persuasive arguments. I didn't realize there's been no COLA for all these years.
A long time.
Yeah. Now, on the other hand, what Diane said is HR1 is a killer. I mean, HR1 means way less money coming to every state, including Connecticut, from the feds under Medicaid, putting pressure on the states to cut, not expand, including provider rates. So that's a terrible thing. But on the other hand, there's a pretty persuasive thing. I mean, I'm just one person, but it seems reasonable to me.
Can, can you get, you mentioned competitive bidding, and they're trying to do that with catheters, I know, but are they going to start increasing competitive bidding, and is that currently in
There's a
place right now?
potential, yeah, so David, there's a potential for standard chairs from the competitive
Oh,
bid, not the complex chairs. Complex chairs will always be protected because of the PAMPA laws that went out way back when. But there is a potential, we won't know. We're thinking the next round of the rules are going to probably be coming out from CMS next week, like the end of next week, potentially. With the government shutdown and some of the other things, there's been some delays on things, but we're thinking that's going to come out. And there is a potential for standard wheelchairs in like group one, group twos as part of that.
so there would be less choice, and they'd have maybe one or two type, hey, this is what you get, and
Or
that's it.
people just step away from it because it's not worth it doing. And
So
that's the
then it would
concern.
disappear, those chairs would disappear, and they go right to CRT, so you wouldn't be able to have that lower cost option covered by insurance.
Whatever it may be, it's really what it comes down to is providers being able to cover it and do it continuously.
So they may
Right?
not even
That's,
offer it then. They just like, we're not gonna do this, and you're gonna have to
yep,
depend on an online
they'll
company
just
to do
elect to
it.
credential themselves out of that group category and not do them. So just to give you guys background, so when a provider goes and decides they're going to do a certain type of business, they get credentialed with the state, the insurance plans, saying we cover these product lines when we get credentialed with you for coverage. They may just elect to step out of that product category. And these are things are very much that we're dealing with right now. So not to be Debbie Downer, but I'm very, like I said, this is what I do all day long. I mean, as my job with contracting with all the plans in the states, et cetera. I mean, that's what we're dealing with. I mean, you look at it, look at when it gets back and how long it's been. And so that's why I'm saying I get a little disheartened because a lot of these recommendations we did before, the reason why they didn't go through beforehand is there's fiscal notes tied to all this and there is no funds.
So based on our discussion right now, is that something you're gonna put down as one of your recommendations as far as the reimbursement rate issue?
We, I've spoken at the hearings on it. The state has to figure out the fiscal budget. We know we're just one voice, but it has to happen from the state itself and the department and everything else with all the admin time that's coming up that's being required by the states. I have a hard time believing they're gonna fund increasing rates on the DME fee schedule.
You want to put it in this report,
Anticipating the
Dawn?
opposite.
If you, and we could talk offline, Diane, but if you at least, if it's not that hard to get general data regarding that, then you can put it into the report at least to note that it's a problem and it's on our radar and maybe we're gonna address it next year, talk about it more, even though I mean, we are very limited in what we can accomplish, but at least to get it in the report, I think would be good. I don't wanna give you extra work, but if it's something simple that you can do, I think that would be worthwhile to put it in.
Sure, I can give you a summary where we're at and how it's
Sure.
been.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Are we good to move to the next one?
I'll address this, that this is basically something, Diane, I think you guys already do. That you tell people both on phone and in your written stuff that, you know, it's a choice to go to the shop or to the come out to the home. And this is written really for new motion that they won't do it. I mean, Gary's been very clear, he will not do this. So unless it's mandated, we don't see how it's going to happen.
Again, you're getting prescriptive for businesses, Sheldon, so just, you know, like I said, we're doing it, but just keep it in mind, guys, if you guys push these things through, think about what you're doing. That's all I'm gonna say. And I don't I'm one voice averse, whatever, so, yeah.
Okay, continue on.
Number 12 is really, this is also for new motion, unfortunately. The conversation last time, just to rehash, and we've had it 3 times, but it was very explicit. It was that the new motion report, which claims 95% compliance with the 10-day requirement, says, in breaking it down, that, you know, on the form revised report, that the average time for assessment is 7 days. And also that the average time from the call to actual repair being completed also is 7 days, which is impossible. And we've asked Gary multiple times what's going on. And at the meeting last time, he stood by that data and he said it was accurate. So given that, and given that that's impossible, and this, I've been on other committees, councils where you do this, or settlements and all kinds of situations where there's reporting, but if there's a question about something, then there's some kind of auditing, you know, to check on the basis for the data. And the standard I think we wrote was where there is a reasonable basis to question the accuracy of the summary data being reported. And there's no issue with NSM, but we certainly have that with new motion. So we would need some way of getting redacted data that we could actually check the numbers.
I think you're gonna have a challenge with that, Sheldon, because depending how they use it with their systems, I don't know. So I think the question, you had the right when you see those reports, when they don't line up, like you're doing right now, say, I would get it when you guys get it ahead of time instead of waiting for the meeting date. That's when you need to be sending those questions over, right? And I would expect John and Maureen to be the ones that would, hey, this doesn't line up. Can you please go back and revalidate? and show your data points on this or whatever. Of course, HIPAA, keeping HIPAA compliance, whatever. I mean, I have my raw data and every single client, how we have it lined up, but I think you need to be careful with that because like I said, you're asking for HIPAA information, you're asking for BHI, you're asking for, depending how their system is done, I don't know. Like I said, we had one advantage because we were already doing this for this capitation we have out on the West Coast, but you have every right as part of that report to question it, right? So that's why we're giving it to you monthly.
Again, we totally redacted, no PHI. We want to protect people, of course. And so that's how you do it. But on the questioning it, we've done that. And if Maureen and Jonathan had asked the question beforehand, they would have gotten the same answer, which is we're standing by the data. That's what he said. I mean, we checked the minutes and notes from last time, but that's what he said.
And we didn't have complaints on the OHA side or any complaints that were lodged with them that they shared back and not meeting those timelines.
I'm sorry, complaints from individuals, is that?
Yeah. So to question why you think that data is incorrect.
Because
Here's what I'm going to say because Gary's not on a call. At the end of the day, the purpose of this project is to make sure people are getting serviced. There's not complaints about it. Is it going to what the intent of the bill is, right? And if it is, and we're not getting complaints, other than you're just satisfied with Gary's reports, Sheldon, I want to make sure that we're being fair to everybody out there. I get what you're saying though. If you don't understand it or doesn't make sense, totally get it. But if it's not hearing from the advocacy groups or from the members themselves. Now we report like the one thing, like I said, if we get complaints from the state or from any of our customers, we know it, we follow up on those, right? So, I just want to make sure you're just not, like I said, he's not on a call to defend himself, but I get where you're going, but that's the intent of the purpose of asking for those reports and asking those questions. Daryl.
Right.
Oh, wait, hold on.
Can I just respond though to say that one of the recommendations, what we're going to get to, or was already, sorry, it's an old recommendation, is that people be told about the complaint process.
That's what I was going to say.
There's almost no complaints being filed because they don't know about it. So that's not a meaningful thing. If that was done,
that's not true, Sheldon. Clients call us and complain, and we have to record those and document it.
That's not reported to OHA.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say is, you have the right to ask us how many complaints we have in the state that month.
Oh, that's new. Okay, we could do that.
It's not new. Here's the thing. Anytime a payer, all our insurance plans, including the state, if they lodge complaints, we have to answer. We have to, and we all track them. I'll be giving you an example. In the past 4 months, I've had 3 complaints that came in directly from Husky on some clients, following up on some things, right? And so I had to answer them. I got them, got the answers, respond back. So it's not just OHA. We all have to address concerns and complaints that get filed to us. We get them sometimes directly from our insurance plan. A client called and was frustrated on something.
Is that an industry standard or an NSM standard?
No, that's an industry, Maureen.
Okay. Right, because my concern for the past year has been the fact that people don't know about the law. And I know Sheldon's comment about the data is just the data. Anyone looking at the data would see that it doesn't make sense. So it doesn't even matter about complaints. It's just the data does not make sense, and we're not getting answers. We
and then
put
that
in writing,
and
we've asked for. Yeah,
and that's
so
up
this
for
is
the
like we don't know what else to do here.
Yeah.
Daryl.
Well, I got a few things. Something came up after, even if that's an industry standard, and all we're reporting is what's coming in from OHA. It would have been nice to have that transparency too as well, to reflect like reporting and just talking to other people that if there's a certain theme, why are they complaining, what are the some of these things that are popping up. I think that would be helpful to address these situations. I know sometimes it's not just timely, it just could be another repair and maybe go as well as it was planned to be, or maybe was it the wrong part, or was it something with something that could have been backward, or whatever it could have been. But you don't have to go down, and you could run into somebody on the side of the road that's in a chair, and they're dealing with their complaints there, but they might not know about the process of the OHA, because what Maureen brought up, they're not being notified. So I do think that notification all throughout, to know them of the bill that we have here and how we're trying to get that clear script dictated to the actual consumer is really important. But I know, Joe, you brought up a few times, in reference to the data that was shared and some of the discrepancies. And I do think we need to make sure that everything is like tightened up well before these meetings. Because they have a team that could work on that stuff. And it's just odd when there is some of those like really vast numbers, like 7 days for the evaluation and then 7 days for the complete repair. I know Sheldon brought that up too as well in the past, but yeah, it's my 2 cents. Thanks.
We did have that initiative in the beginning of the year with Ginny and Becky, OHA and DSS to uh, send out notification to the Husky recipients. I just don't know, I don't know, Ginny, if you have any feedback on that, if we know that there was much response, I mean, I don't think that we can really measure that, but it didn't seem that to make a big difference. I don't know.
Right. I know that the notification went out,
Yeah.
and it was in the like a Husky newsletter. And I don't know if any complaints to ask our ASO if they could maybe pull some numbers for us, because maybe there were some complaints, maybe not to OHA, but maybe they would reach out to Husky instead.
Yeah. Well, yeah, if you can get that
And
information, that'd be great.
that's the point, Maureen, I was bringing up. Like I had in the past couple months, I had 3 different events that came from Husky directly, because part of their plan, like Ginny would tell you, is any concern, complaints that come up or grievances they address, and they send it out to us providers. We have to answer it. We have to do a plan of correction if it's necessary and address with all of it. And typically we give med docs back to them too and say, here's all the med docs. Here's what's happened. Here's what the concern is. Here's how it was addressed or not addressed, etc. And that's universal for almost all insurance plans.
So moving on, the next recommendation is sort of tied to this, which is that it's a requirement that people could track, which I understand, Diane, you guys already do most of this, that people can track what's going on with the repair with these 4 dates along the way, because related to this thing about complaints is that people are tracking, they need 2 things. They need to know what's going on in their case, and they know what the rules are. And then they can compare, and then they'd be more inclined, to file a complaint if there wasn't compliance. But sort of neither of those things, well, new motion for sure is happening as far as the data, knowing what's happening, and neither company has been willing to educate their consumers about what the timelines are in the law.
That's not true, Sheldon. I told you last time we are doing that as people are getting their new equipment and also telling them about the timelines for repairs. Techs have it as they're going out and sharing. And they've even said, we gotta get this done within this timeline. We will call in. So they know that, because we've even said that, like you made the comment before in previous meetings, like you don't have to get your evaluation done in 3 days. But we said, yes, we do, because in order to meet this 10-day timeline, we are trying to get these done in their evaluations, right? So it is being voiced and is being shared.
Well,
And the
that's
consumers know it. They know
Right.
it.
So this is important actually, because if what you're doing is kind of along the lines of what we're asking for, it change, we could potentially speak for anybody else because these were a consensus, but perhaps we could adjust our recommendation so could you tell me, I'm sorry, and I apologize that this did not sink into me, what exactly you're telling consumers about the timelines in 2458 and the ability to file a complaint with OHA.
Yeah, so with the OHA, we're not publishing, but with complaints, we say anytime you have concerns that you call us because we do a formal log on that. With the OHA, we didn't do that form of notification. I'll be transparent on that because we know it all went out from the committee members, and OHA sent something out, and Gene and we knew Husky did because we saw the newsletter because I get copies of that. What we do tell everybody is when they're calling in, as we're new equipment, we're telling them about the repair process anytime they're getting it from it. And also when they're calling us, that's some of the comments I made before. We are purposefully telling the clients, we need to get your evaluation of your chair within 3 days time because there's a 10-day window to get your repair done. So there's been times like I said, if we don't get that evaluation for us, in order for us, we saw our data points, Sheldon. In order for us to be successful and get this done, if we can't do a remote diagnostic, we got to get that person evaluated within 3 days because if not, it's so hard to meet that 10-day window after we get supplies ordered, if we have to order a part, whatever. So, that's something that we did to ourselves in order to do that. And as part of the messaging we've done that because you've even brought it up in previous meetings. You don't have to do that. Why consumers told us that you did that because you have to get it done. I'm like, that's not true. Well, it is for us in order to make this timeline for us to make it. So we put some restrictions on ourselves in order to accommodate this.
So you're telling consumers, sorry, but you're telling consumers when they call to, whatever the problem is, you're telling them then about the 10 business day
Yeah, as
requirement.
anytime, because when we were asking that, saying, hey, we got to get this done. They're also being informed as anytime the person's getting a new piece of equipment, they're being informed at that time too, as part of their checkoff. Because you have to do a contract, you have to do a checklist when someone gets something from us, you sign off on it. There's materials on it for your warranty and all that other stuff.
You're telling them about the 10-day rule, but you're not telling them about OHA.
Yeah, but why would we tell them about OHA? It's not our department.
Why bother
But
telling
the
them
person
about,
complains to us, we track it though. That's what I'm saying,
I
Joe, is
but
anytime
why
someone complains about anything, we're gonna follow up on it.
why bother telling them about the 10-day rule if you're not going to tell them how to file a complaint?
I don't understand the logic on that one.
The logic is if they don't know how to file a complaint about it not being within the 10-day law, then what's the point of them even knowing about the law to begin with? I don't understand what the
Well,
point of.
I tell someone I have to get something done in 10 days, then.
I get that. Okay.
Okay, so if I'm telling you up front, I gotta get this done in the 10-day window because there's a repair guidelines. And if I don't, they're gonna call and complain. And I'm gonna have to follow up on it. I have to track it. I'm reporting it. I don't, do you understand? I'm like, so I think I
That's
get it.
assuming that you're gonna take care of the complaint, which on the other side, I think there's sometimes problems.
Yeah.
So I think that's, Joe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's kind of the concern. And you guys are doing a great job right now. If something changes on your end, new hires or management changes, then maybe you could be in a position too where people are complaining to NSM and not getting anywhere. So I think, Joe, is that
Yeah, that's kind of the logic there. It was just like, why bother? Yeah, I understand that if you've got a 10-day get deadline, and it's more along the lines of letting the consumer know, hopefully they can be available, hopefully they can accommodate you if you got to make last minute changes in the schedule or something of that nature so that you can stay within those guidelines. But it should also be a portion of that. You should be letting them know where to file a complaint if it goes, it exceeds that 10-day law. That's all.
I do applaud the fact that people are calling and getting their complaints taken care of. Especially as a consumer, that's really important. Sheldon.
Yeah, so like as we discussed, we might be amending these things or adding ones like the COLA thing. I do, in light of this information, I still think it's really important, as we say, that consumers be notified not only about the law requirements, but also about the right to file a complaint with OHA, which is, after all, the official place that the law provides us to take the complaints. But in light of this information, Diane, would you object to a requirement that you report to this council complaints? Because that hasn't been, we've only been getting OHA complaints.
Well, I'm not gonna want it mandated in the law. This ask report, if you want to adjust the repair complaints lodged in the past month on a report, fine. But I don't want things more legislatively mandated, because then you're just gonna make it, Sheldon, harder and harder for someone else to come into the marketplace. We track them. We all track them.
Okay, I think we're okay to move on, and just no time is 10 after. Oh, Sheldon, you're muted.
Do you have something next week?
Our last recommendation was non-legislative.
Okay.
So it's not a mandate, to your point, Diane. But we're real concerned about, we're getting a lot of complaints about techs who really, really don't know the basics, don't have the basic tools. And a lot of our folks have a lot of lived experience, have had a lot of repairs, have watched what the techs have done, so have gained some savvy on it. And they say not literally not having an Allen wrench for a device that clearly requires an Allen wrench, that kind of thing. So we were looking for some kind of uniform, and I think, sorry to say, but I think once again, it's more of a new motion than.
Yeah, this is very generic, but I understand, but this is a type of concern that should be brought up in the committee so we take back when we hear that from the field. I mean, that's the purpose of the committee too, right? It's not just a one way, us reporting to you and what have you. If the committee members are getting calls of this nature or being told this, we need to have examples of that. Or even if they don't know the clients, don't give us client information. You can say they did this visit on this date, the technician on this date did not have the proper tools, and take that back so we can go back to the field and say, hey, what's going on? Is it a new person? Is it new equipment? Whatever it is. When I have such a generic thing like this, we need examples, right? So that's important. I'm going to ask that, because when I go back to the branch managers after everything I get feedback on from the meetings from you guys, I take those back to the field teams and saying, this is what came up. Do we have this a problem? Is this something that we're dealing with? Is there something? That's also why I gave you guys that summary, like new people, someone's on medical, kind of just anecdotally, so you guys know what's going on and why the numbers may have moved different way, one way or the other. But we need this info too, though, to be able to go back and address that, right? Is it just one person that's doing this, or is it a training issue from the senior tech net, making sure and double checking the vans before they leave to the field? I mean, there's various things that something like this, we need to know about that, right? So if you're getting that type of feedback from the committee members here, from anybody, please share that up. Like I said, you can still keep PHI out of it, but be more specific if you can, because that's just, again, anecdotal. And we need specifics on that so we can address exactly what that is.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have gotten to the end of the new recommendations. Sheldon, do you want to just quickly go over the revised recommendations from last year?
Yeah, let me say quickly, flag what's changed. It's a little harder. The main thing on the preventative was to be twice annual, and instead of annual. And Diane says maybe do annual, so maybe we'll take that back. But obviously everybody. And by the way, preventative maintenance may pay for itself, right? It may actually save money for the state. I don't know if Ginny would agree with that, but it just seems like cars. You do preventive maintenance, now it's a prevention. Anyway, so that was the change there. So we on the paying for overnight parts delivery by the payers that we can regulate, only the ones we can regulate. We added in this thing about when the parts are urgently needed and the part is available from the manufacturer or distributor, because we understand this whole thing of, well, yeah, but they don't even have it yet. That the manufacturer is still waiting, supply chain still waiting for it. So that's kind of a silly thing. But once the manufacturer actually has the thing, and now it's just a question of getting it to the supplier, that there should be payment available where it's urgently needed. So it was tweaked a little bit that way.
I don't know if you need to recorrect that, dude, because you don't have authority over the commercial plans on this one, though, Sheldon.
You
I
mean
mean,
you don't mean commercial, you mean self-funded.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it doesn't say that. We mean only where you can regulate.
yeah, because you have Medicaid, commercial insurers, and state employees plans, so you might
No,
want
we
to
mean
rephrase.
we mean when we say, okay, we can fix it. When we say commercial, we mean fully insured commercial plans, not self-funded. Yeah, okay. So next thing, oh, right. At the end, so this is, let me look at number 5, what we had before. Number 5. Oh, no, I'm sorry, number 20, number 21 is what it was. So what it said before is the statute should be amended to require consumers to receive from the wheelchair dealer all timeline data related to the repair request necessary to determine if a violation of the law has occurred, A, electronically during and after the repair process, and B, in paper at the time of completing the repair. So we changed it a little bit, I think, to make it a little less onerous. All timeline data related to the repair request necessary to determine if the deadlines in the law have been complied with. And we didn't say a violation, we said, to see if this has been complied with at the time of completion. So basically, only at the time of completion does it have to be provided, although there's that other new recommendation about tracking, as you go along. But so we did pare it down a little bit to say that's the difference. And let's see, 7 is previously that was number 17. 17 said industry should be required to work with OHA to regularly inform all wheelchair consumers about the new wheelchair repair law and the option of filing a complaint with OHA, including how to file a complaint in an annual mailing on its website and in all of its electronic newsletters and in all other electronic communication with consumers. That's what it was last year, and now it reads, wheelchair suppliers should be required to work with OHA to regularly inform all wheelchair consumers about the basics of the new wheelchair repair law and the option of filing a complaint with OHA, including how to file a complaint in an annual mailing on its website, in all of its electronic newsletters, and in all other electronic communication with consumers. So the means is the same, but we tweaked a little bit, what you have to provide. And sounds like you're already doing the notifying of the law, but not notifying about OHA, and New Motion's doing neither. And then the last one is that was revised. So this is the big one, enforcement. And our original recommendation, number 18, was very specific. And we said that enforcement should be added to the new law so there are economic consequences for persistent systemic noncompliance with timeless requirements, including defining systemic noncompliance with the timeless requirements in PA 2458 beyond a specific small percentage as an unfair trade practice under the Connecticut Unfair Trade Practices Act. As you know, we were not successful in getting that passed. We think it's really important, though, there be some enforcement, and so our recommendation now is much vaguer because something is needed. And that is to say, enforcement of the 10 business day requirement in 2458 through state administrative or judicial penalties where there's persistent systemic non-compliance with this timeless requirement. It doesn't say, but we also mean, some percentage allowance, like 100%. We're not suggesting that's required, but something like that. Persistent, significant non-compliance. I think that's it. So yeah, any questions?
Do you have any questions on the revisions? Okay, and
We're gonna,
then,
we're gonna
oh,
be able to answer to all those when the summary report again, right? Maureen and John,
yes,
like we did last year, and give our comments.
Yeah, what I'd like is, it sounds like on both sides there's potentially some language adjustments being made to some of these. So if you all could send me a clean copy of because I want to make sure that what the recommendations are put onto the Google form verbatim, right? So that there's no question of any intent or language issues. So to the degree that those edits need to be made, Diane and Sheldon, how quickly do you think you can get those to me and Maureen so that I can go ahead, because I'll be the one working on the Google form.
Yeah, what I'll probably end up doing, John, is just take out number 1 that I had on ours, just removing it because there is no way you're gonna be able to do the other parts of it.
Okay.
And on the last one, I don't know, I think 2 and 3 and 4 are probably gonna leave just for sake of leaving. And then the 4th one, I might just rephrase that. So I will get the last one, excuse me. I'll get that back to you today.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll have it today.
Thank you.
Can I ask 2 questions about, Diana, what you're going to do? Would you be willing to consider our recommendation number 1, new recommendation number 1 about the report has to address sunsetting and changing frequency of meetings in place of yours, in place of your
Go
last-
back. Can you pull the exact language, how you got it written, please? And thank you.
Yeah,
You guys could put that back up.
Maureen, can you do that?
I don't
Or
have
Brittany,
the,
whoever had it. Brianna, thank you. Or Brianne, excuse me, say your name wrong.
Thanks, Maureen.
Well, the question is right now, the report, we're doing the report voluntarily monthly, right? So that's great. We're doing it voluntary. We'll keep doing it. It's only required annually.
the reporting is voluntary, if, I believe that the meetings are monthly, that was part of the statute, but the reporting is not.
So what you're saying here, though, Sheldon, is you're not giving a recommendation. You're saying just whatever the council comes up with. I'm trying to understand exactly what you're trying to say here, though.
There's a mandate that the council consider both of these things. Well, one's kind of moot. If we're sunsetting, it's kind of moot, the frequency of reporting, but
Right.
that the council has to have a discussion, put on the agenda for purposes of the report, what are we going to recommend now about frequency of meeting? What are we going to recommend about ultimately a sunset? I mean, I'm just saying, this is not necessarily what, and I'm not speaking for anybody else, but you know, sometimes what happens is people agree to a sunset in the future, like substantially, and that's it. And we're all working towards that sunset. Of course, you know, could change. The law could change in that, but you know, it sort of becomes the goal, and it's one thing. So the point is, we'd have a conversation about each report, every report. There has to be a discussion, and then the report has to address both of those things.
Let me think about that.
Okay. And then the
We
other
can-
one was, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, we can leave them, because you're asking to combine them?
Sheldon's asking for me to remove and just use his language for number 9
Oh, okay,
Right.
okay.
to be simplistic.
Right. And then the other thing, since this is a give and take, is whether to look at our new number, uh, 10. You know, this is the requirement to repair others, and to think about, you know, propose limits on what we've given. Now, this is what we'd like, but I'm not speaking for others, but I'm just asking is maybe you could propose further limits on this that you could live with, because you're already doing it. Well, Gary says he's doing it all the time, for what it's worth. You're saying that you do it sometimes. And what I'm saying is, well, maybe we could,
Yep.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Say again.
It's a case by case condition and the situation, because it depends on insurance, it depends on what it is, where they're at in their cycle, etc.
Okay. Well, anyway, just to think about if you could share with us, you know, potential limits on this, maybe we could reach an agreement. That's all I'm suggesting.
Very good.
But to answer your question, Jonathan, obviously I don't act unilaterally. I'm just more the scribe than anything. So I have to talk to my colleagues, and yikes, we didn't set up a meeting or anything. When is Diane gonna get her stuff into you?
Well, mine's really short, Sheldon. I'm just going to fix it this afternoon. So
Okay, all right, yeah, but we have more to do, and then we'll wait to hear from you too on those two things, because you know, we might adjust it based on what you say. So maybe, I don't know, the end of next week, is that too long?
Well, I mean, again, just trying to reverse engineer the December 31st deadline and
Right.
writing the report and holidays and vacations, etc. You know, I want to do it right rather than quickly. So whatever you can do, you can do. So certainly we would prefer it as quickly as possible, just so
Sure.
that we can get everybody enough time to fill out the Google form. That's all I'm
Right.
saying.
And then after people fill out the Google form, that's where they do their comments, right, to whatever comments they want to the recommendations they're saying. Then we vote, then we'll meet and vote. Is that?
Well, all of that will go into the final report, and so it seems to me that what happens is then Maureen and I will write the report. We'll include all of the information. We will submit the report to everybody, give them ample time to read it, and then schedule a meeting to vote on submittal to the legislature.
I think we voted on recommendations, because we had a recommendation that didn't pass last year.
Right.
Well, that was recommendations that were going to go into the report. It seems to me that everything here, unless I'm missing something or unless anyone objects, all of these recommendations will go onto the Google form and therefore go into the report. Is there a step that I'm missing?
yeah, that's what we did before, all of it, because again, it's a moot point on voting, guys. Come on now. You got 9-2, 4-5, and we all know the advocacy recommendations are going to go through. So I think to the point what Jonathan was sharing and what happened beforehand is all of us gave the feedback, all of us gave our comments, and that was rolled all up into the report.
Right, but we did actually have recommendations. These are the recommendations of the council or
of the
not.
council, which is why we voted on them.
Why we voted, yeah.
Your vote isn't as that strong, Diane, but your opinion is, and getting the other side of the coin and understanding it from your point of view helps us understand, you know, what suggestions and um recommendations are appropriate. So
Right. Also, you know, Diane, you came up with another recommendation as we're going, and that was that you felt that there should be more than one vote on the council from the industry. So, you know, if you want to add that, that's,
Yep.
I mean, personally, I think Gary should be at all the meetings, and it's a little hard to insist on that if he's not even officially on the committee, as a practical matter. I'm gonna
once-
suggest.
Oh, go
Sorry.
ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna suggest a date. I'm just gonna we'll try to do it much earlier, but I'm gonna recommend that the advocates will get their final recommendations, including any revisions based on what Diane says and any revisions that the group comes up with after today. I'm gonna give it myself a lot of time till the 17th. But you know, try to get it earlier.
And then Jonathan, when you, how long does that take you to get put it on the Google form, and 17th
I
is
mean,
Mondays. So how long would that,
yeah, depending on how quickly I get it, I can get it out within 2 days tops.
and then we'd want 2 weeks.
We
We
yeah,
do
the
over
state, the state
Thanksgiving.
agencies need a minimum of 5 days. So I figure
Okay.
if we give it a solid 2 business weeks,
Okay.
that should be plenty. And I think at this point, given that if you know, but using Sheldon State, let's say I get it on the 17th, you're looking into the Thanksgiving week anyway. So
Yeah.
you know, at that point, so just trying to be mindful of that for everybody and give everyone as much time as possible to provide their feedback.
And I think, Sheldon, I'll say right now, just for sake of purpose time, I am fine with your sunsetting language you have on there, as long as we get to the point. I don't want us to be a monthly beat up sessions every single time. Like I said, I really want it to be more productive when we meet. It's really both sides of the thing. Regarding the other one that you have on repairs, I'm going to have a hard time accepting that one that way. And then here's the thing. Most of our agreements out there too, even with our insurance plans, the self-pay private insurance, you know, we have the right to defer up to 10% typically, right? So regardless, let's say we don't have
I
to
don't know what
accept
that
the sign.
means. I'm sorry, I don't know what it means. I defer 10% was.
What that means is, like, I don't have to accept assignment. Let's say someone sends me a referral for an order or something like that, even for new equipment, whatever. I have the ability to not accept assignment, say, no, I'm not going to take this order. We're going to defer this one, what have you. Because my concern with how you have your language written up, there is no right to have a deferral that we have. Because again, capacity issues, what have you. So the way you got that language written, you're mandating I have to take it no matter what if I meet these conditions, and anything outside of it, too bad, so sad. That doesn't always sit well.
So you're saying that even for the ones you provide, even for the ones you sell,
Yeah,
we would not want to mandate anything other than that. We would
Yeah.
not. So give us language or something that
Okay.
does that.
Okay.
Okay, so it's a little after 12:30. Are we okay to adjourn? Do I have a motion? Diane, second?
Second.
All right, meeting's adjourned. We will, you'll be hearing from us, and we'll get everything out. If anyone has questions in the meantime, feel free to reach out to Don and myself with that.